What can I say? Where's that thing? Let's turn this off. Let's get back into it. There she is. There she is. What's up, fellas? Feed you a little sugar right before. That's right. Yeah, if you're watching this live, I started it off with a good old Matt Walsh dig, but you know, whatever. If you're watching this after the fact, you might miss it. That's okay. Welcome, Red Morning. Enjoy your coffee. I'm making the effort because there's always somebody who's like, oh, I love it, but the sound of you drinking coffee is just cancer. So here, we're here for you. Anyways, this is going to be a fun one. Well, it's not going to be fun. It's actually going to be boring, and that's kind of the point of this one. So if you're new to the channel, welcome, like, subscribe. You know the pitch. The thing is, like, I think Real Fen Sapien, she's in the chat. Allie, she talked about it. It's like, you're like a anthropologist for Red Pill, and that's kind of true. Like, I'm not trying to be an ass model of Instagram. I'm not trying to build a cult, or I'm not trying to get followers or anything. I'm just like, I just want to sell my book, but this is just a topic I really enjoy. And if I had my way, the entirety of this space would be C-SPAN level, Senate hearings, like boring as hell, chock full of information. And that's where I'm going to go with in this one today. So the topic of this one is about codependency and you. It turns out, I would say top 5 for sure. I would even go so far as to argue top. Top 3 even. Possibly even the top reason that guys have a horrible marriage, a horrible relationship, are miserable and single, sexless and unloved, all that stuff is because of some combination of cluster B personality types, validation-seeking behavior, and I kind of wrap it up in something called codependency, codependent behavior. So when we're getting on that, like, what the hell is he talking about? What is it? What is it? Why is it bad? And, what are we doing? And how are all the things? So there's going to be kind of a couple parts to this. It's going to be a little more freeform than usual. I don't have, like, proper lesson plan like I normally set up, but it starts with some examples, some textbook examples. And if you've subscribed to the Substack, and I don't know why you wouldn't, you could have seen for free a good 2/3 of it. And if you're a paid subscriber, you see the full thing of it. Awesome thing. Links in the description. If not, I'll pin it there myself. Yeah, so like you get the definitions, and everybody will hear it and they go, okay, this is good, I get it. And then they'll completely ignore that and do more codependent stuff in their real life. So I think you have to get this with like a 2-pronged approach. The first one is understanding it in the abstract. And then the next part is understanding it, mapping it to your life. And this is where, again, as the lead in to rule 0, we're going to a little bit of trad dunking. Because it's very easy to point out like feminists being guys who date feminist codependent, like Destiny with his girlfriend that just wants to suck dicks, apparently. I don't know. I don't follow it too much. I just hear little bits here and there. It's a lot harder to see when you see it's about guys talking about their legacies. So this is going to be fun. Am I preaching to the choir? Is this hitting on the sacred cows? I don't know. So let's get into it. Before we do, though, what the hey?
Not Ryan Stone. I think he's the most important guy in the world. Ryan Stone. Give a fuck about Ryan Stone. Me and him have gone back and forth. Blah blah. Yeah. Ryan Stone does not pass the 6-foot test. He's not even a man. So I don't give a fuck with Ryan Stone.
These are never good. I've been playing this like for 100 episodes now, and I never not smile on it. Never. Oh, quick updates. Rumor is Coach Red Pill has been arrested again by the Ukrainian authorities for spreading propaganda. Hearts out to it. Can somebody explain to me something, by the way? How come every time the Matrix comes after some red-pilled content creator, the first thing they do is like mess up the dude's hair? Like, I watched Pat Stedman, his hair looked all ridiculous after that. Tate, his hair started looking ridiculous. The picture of Coach Red Pill himself after the thing there is just like the something about Mary scene with the jizz in the hair. It's just crazy. All right, enough of that. We're getting into normal stuff. So what is codependency? I guess the first way to talk about it is how it gets here. So most people think codependency is some kind of like broken, deficient mental thing. And it's not. There's a reason for it. It's actually something from our childhoods. It's ultimately about the fear of abandonment. Quickly pausing here. Doug Chisholm, $99.99 super chat. Thanks, Ryan. You sharing this information changed my life, and now it's a great life. Thanks. No, dude. Thank you. Like I said, there's a good 50 or 60 guys, and I think you're in top 10 too, of like hearing the stuff that's happened to them after understanding these mental models. And if I could bottle you up and sell you as a Gumroad course, I would, sir. You absolutely know it. So in the meantime, thank you very much for the super chat. That makes it all worthwhile. Yeah, so codependent, seeking validation, and abandonment. What do you mean by abandonment? Well, as a kid, every kid is worried about abandonment. And that's an instinct. Because back in our caveman days, if you were a child, like 2-3 years old, you're essentially helpless. There's a great essay on this one from, again, I've mentioned him a lot, Whisper. He calls it Big Heads. And it talks about how human beings are very unique in the animal kingdom. I think marsupials are the only other one where you take anything else, a deer, a cow, a horse, they're born within 15 minutes, they're running and they're jumping and they're fully formed. But they don't have a lot of cognitive abilities. Humans, on the other hand, we've developed intelligence. Now, the problem with intelligence is you need a big brain cavity to hold it. And the problem with that is then that women can't birth something with a giant head. Giant head, it's just too hard. So the idea of like, how long is it till kids are like running around like 3, 4, 5 years old? Like women just can't grow large enough to do that. And if they do, it makes them so non-functional from like a functional standpoint that they can't do anything. So our evolution has kind of led to bearing children before they're fully developed and then having them developed outside of the womb, which makes them extremely, extremely vulnerable to the outside world. That's why kids are essentially helpless for like at least the first 5 years. We could argue more or less, but you know the point. And because of this, we have developed certain psychological habits or traits or, mental models, whatever. They're ingrained in us that allow us to survive better through this. And for the children, the big thing is codependency. You do what you have to do to make mom love you. You have to do what you do to make dad love you, because if they love you, they're more likely to stick around and you're more likely not to get eaten by a fucking bear. Rollo talks about this a bunch. I think he mentioned, what was the one he mentioned on this one? It was, oh yes, do you ever notice how when you have your first kid and then all the family and friends see it, and the first thing that people say, they don't even think, it's just instinct. He looks so much like your father. He looks so much like you, like the dad, right? That's a cycle thing too. That's another thing that humans have developed over the years. It's like to ensure that men know they have paternity. Because like the easiest way to ensure a kid's survival is to make sure he looks like dad. Absolutely. Even if he doesn't, for people to say he looks like dad. Now, I'm not saying, women are cheating and stealing everything in caveman days. I'm just saying like the instinct is there. Dad has to be on board. Of course, things have changed. We got an environment change right now. What happened? Women joined the workforce, but I mean, that's not really as important. The thing that's important here is, and I think Glover talks about it, where the Industrial Revolution came. We're no longer a cottage industry. Men are working outside the home. They're working in factories. They're working in cities. They commute to work. Something completely new. Men used to be, like, they may not have been like nurturing kids, but they were always there. They were there to help raise. They were here to help perform a stalwart towards like female parenting strategies. Like they were there. Even the farmers. He had his home at the end of the day. He was there during the day. The kids could run out, etc. But dad started working in the factory. Dad started working in the offices. And now dad is removed from the child's life. Everybody loves to talk about how the divorce industry and all this stuff has removed children from their fathers. But people forget the workplace has done that too. And this is recent. And so before, what happened is, as like a way it worked is with dads, they would offer, the validation dads would offer was rule based. Like if you do your chores, stop annoying your mother, everything will be fine, right? That's all they care about. Women are more identity based, and I've talked about this before, so I don't want to go like too far into depth with this. But anyway, so you get the kind of the landscape, and then you add to it like the no fault divorce thing that everybody's bitching about, and I get it. Nobody's saying it's good. What I'm saying, though, is it's not the cause of the problem. It's just another example of, it's like an accelerant. So for a lot of guys, you become codependent as a child because, you know, you need mom and dad to love you, or that fear of abandonment, even if it's not real, the concern that it's real and acting as if it's real tends to do better for you than if you didn't. So that kid gets into elementary school and he still has that ingrained instinct because, you know, mom's the only one who's been raising him for the first 5 years, whether dad is in the picture or not. Then you end up having female teachers. Like, when was the last time you had a male teacher? I remember talking about this and guys were like, you know, guys who were kids in the 80s had male teachers, but like the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, like sometimes they don't see a guy until they're like 20 years old in any type of authority position. And so it continually reinforces this codependent type behavior, this validation seeking, identity, shame based. What used to start as like a childhood instinct for protection has now been refined to an adult stage, like neuroticism, disorder almost. But you can't call it a disorder because women have been solely responsible for it. I mean, nowadays you could say women and defective men have been, but you know, you get the point. So you can't call it a disorder. That would be wrong. Trust me. Just go ask. Go ask anybody. They'll tell you, no, dude, you can't say that. Don't say that. And I'm not here trying to cheerlead. We need more male teachers and men out of the home and divorce. Nothing bothers me more than people hearing this information and then just like yelling at clouds, you know? It's like, look, that's the landscape. What you do with that is up to you. But sitting here bitching at the sky because you don't like the color blue is not helping anybody. You can bitch about no-fault divorce. You can tweet about it. You can do whatever. But until you're able to get into like the environment and change things to such a substantial rate that it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. So just navigate things as they are. Just realize this for your own kids. Be hyper aware of that codependent validation seeking behavior that they have, the inordinate amount of time they'll spend next to their mother as opposed to their father, and you kind of act accordingly. Yeah, you have to look a little harder. It's like in the 80s where everybody's like, the TV is raising your kids. How am I supposed to compete? I get them for 2 hours a day. The TV gets them for 8. Well, you make sure those 2 hours are the best you can. And that leads us to the next point. Where is it?
Name a bigger red flag than a white guy with a podcast. I'll wait.
I am not impressed. I will have you know, I'm like 80% white. The podcast is goddamn good, and I don't want you anyway. You got random Iroquois art and not art on your walls. You're not my type, sir. Or madam. I don't know. You're allowed to say any more? So codependency. What is codependency? Honestly, I think the easiest way to do it is when you guys see, like, if you've watched the Sidebar series on this channel, I really hope you do. It's old, but it's the bedrock that all the Red Pill stuff is based on. Glover's work, No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it's nice guy behavior personified. Absolutely. It has some less damaging parts, some more damaging parts, some parts that are obvious, some parts that are not so obvious. Big part of the nice guy behavior is the covert contract. If I do something, not tell you that I'm doing it, you will reciprocate it, not tell me you're doing it, and everybody will agree to this social contract and we'll have a problem-free life. And it's like, it never works out. Partially because the guy develops horrible attachment to reality. If you're developing the world inside your head, it doesn't map to anything, so it never works out. Or the other person knows you're doing it, they're being horribly manipulative about it, or you're being horribly manipulative about it, and they blow it up specifically because they don't like being manipulated. Remember this. I keep telling you guys this. Women hate sales. Women love marketing. Nice guy behavior, controlling behavior, demanding shit. That's all sales. All sales. What you really want to do is be marketing. And this is where we keep talking. This is where you keep hearing the memes about high value man or hypergamous best option. And I get it. They're vague. They're container words, and I've ragged on them as much as anybody. The idea behind it, though, is the girl is incentivized to be around you and to do things that make you happy because your happiness and her happiness, like women get happy when you make them happy. And then them expressing that happiness is to make you happy. It's just one of those things. That's why blowjobs are such a wonderful thing. A blowjob is her way of saying, I love you so much, I don't even need to have one this time. This one's all you, baby. Yeah, and off topic, but space memes is right here. It's like, if you're doing something nice for somebody and they don't appreciate it enough, if you get angry about it, then you were in a position for generosity. The whole idea of giving is it doesn't matter what happens once you give it. The act of giving is good enough. I give you flowers, you throw them in the garbage. I'm perfectly fine with that. If I'm angry about it, then I shouldn't have given them to you. It's a very hard thing for guys to get past. A lot of this stuff. So some of you guys may understand this intuitively, but you'd be surprised. A lot of guys, they really, really can't understand this to the point that they'll call you an asshole for even bringing it up. No. She needs to act right. She needs to follow this covert contract. And if not, she's a goddamn bitch. And you're just like, listen to yourself, man. Like, listen, I'm not here to tell you anything. Like, God knows, just follow me on Twitter if you like nonsense. You'll see 9 times out of 10, it's me saying something. Granted, I say it a little acrimonious, a little bit edgy, a little bit trying to rile up the plebs. You'll see some guy defend his covert contract to the death, talk to me like I'm crazy for it. Hey, don't post your kids online. Speaking of which, don't post your kids online because you're using them as social media props. F you, how can you say people hate kids? It's like, dude, really? I'm talking about my dead wife. I hope I get likes from this one. It's like, dude, that's not great. That's not healthy mentally. What's wrong with you? Why do you not respect the dead? It's like, I don't know. I think people just have this need to suffer. They task me. Dark Knight Dev, son of a bitch. All right, Dark Knight, thank you for the $5 super chat. This is a heartfelt fuck you. This is the stuff that's actually red pill, not the White Claw, Power Hour, trad cons who are undercover feminists or guys with the Madonna thought complex. Oh, dude. Madonna horror is crazy. Yeah. No, and absolutely. I think people forget that. There's 2 parts to red pill, right? There's the, obviously there's the rule 0, which is sexual strategy, positive male identity. And with this stuff here, it kind of delves into both a little bit, because like shedding covert contracts, to learn to stop seeking validation from women so much, to stop being codependent to your wife. It's both develops a positive male identity, but also makes you more attractive. Because let's face it, look, let's put yourself in the shoes of a whammon. Close your eyes, picture your tits, grab a Bud Light, have at it. I'm dating 50 guys, 100 guys, whatever notches everybody's bitching about now. Let's say 50. Let's keep it a nice round number. It's smaller than 1,500, but more than 3. And they date a guy, and he's got this covert contract, these big showy parts of affection. It feels weird and manipulative, but you can't articulate it, so you just call it creepy. And then you're like, no, thank you. And then the guy has a temper tantrum because you won't go on a date with him after he bought flowers and got you tickets to Disneyland and shit. Now you're like, all right, now I got to get out of here because this guy's giving me, I want to turn you into a skin suit vibes. Maybe he didn't, but the girl doesn't know that. Are you willing to take the chance? This guy's twice my size. He's twice my size and has a katana collection. I'm not taking that chance. No, creepy, get out of here. One of these other guys like, hey, bro, she doesn't want to talk. She's like, oh, thank God. Maybe he can choke him out in the subway so I don't have to. You run into 50 guys like this and you're like, dude, I hate men. Men are ridiculous. And then they run into a red pill guy. You know, he says some weird misogynist stuff. You're like, what the hell? But then you talk to him and you're like, oh my God, he's honest. And like, I withhold affection and he's like not bothered by it. Like I can do anything to him and he doesn't really care. But if I cross the line, he just leaves. So geez, I better start acting right. Like this is the kind of thing. Like I am surprised you have to cheerlead this kind of behavior in 2023. But then again, we had masks on for 2 years and weren't allowed to leave the house. So what do I know about people's rational instincts? I strongly say today that codependent behavior for men is the BPD women. You know, that's the equation. So I have a couple examples, and I've kind of briefly talked about them in the Substack, but we're going to get into them here. There it is. All right. Let's do some times. There we go. An exaggerated sense of responsibility for the actions of others. Tell me this doesn't sound exactly like something you know. If you don't, I'll fill you in. An exaggerated sense of responsibilities for the actions of others. Do you ever see guys that are really, really mad that girls are getting notch counts that girls are working and boss bitch, or that girls make bad decisions, or girls are mad about no men. And you see dudes online like holding these bitches accountable. Can you believe this shit? It's this exaggerated sense of responsibility for the actions of others. And you're like, I don't get it though. They hate women. How is that codependent? Look, pedestalizing women isn't necessarily about deifying them. It just means you're putting them on a pedestal. And this slut shaming, obsession over notch counts and stuff like that, it's an indirect pedestal. It's an indirect pedestal because you have an exaggerated sense of responsibility for the actions of others. You fuck 100 men, no man's going to want you. You're going to be alone and lonely. Riley Reid shows up, smashes the fantasy. Everybody gets mad at that. I can't believe the porn star is happy with a husband and a kid. What's the world coming to? Isn't that what you wanted? A porn star who regretted her life, had a baby, has a family. I mean, hopefully stays loyal. Like, God knows, the last thing I want is to have that guy a story 5 years down the line, dead bedroom with porn star, divorces, takes half his money. That would be horrible. Horrible. If anything, the way things are going right now, you want that to work out because, oh, good. If she can sort out her wicked ways and be a good wife, then why can't anybody? But that's not traditional. That's not good. It's like, I don't know, man. It just is what it is. Like you can't change the world. But again, it ties into, and I'm quoting Rollo again on this one, women, according to these type of codependent men, women either have agency or they don't. They have agency when it suits them. They don't have agency when it suits them. Oh, women know exactly what they're doing. You can't tell her what to do. Something bad happens. Oh, well, women are just stupid children. They need to be saved from themselves. It's that same dichotomy. It's like guys need these women to be, the mother dearest that knows better, and then like the goofy daughter that doesn't know better. And then whatever chance it has, every time, it's always about that exaggerated sense of responsibility towards them. I can save her. Every guy, remember that, and you're never going to see it differently again. Every time you see some guy bitching about notch count on social media or in your friend circle, just remember, I can save her, bro. I can save her. And you see like the religious guys, or I don't know, man. Religion used to be like I don't know if you guys know this, but my grandfather was a Baptist minister. My mom was a Baptist. I was like, it's not for me. She's like, well, if you're not going to believe in anything, you're just going to be a Baptist then. So that was her thing. It's like, well, atheist is like, fill in the blank. So just put Baptist in there. And that was as far as that conversation went. Anyway, that church was different. Like, I remember this, like my grandmother and grandfather, she was 3 times married, but in fairness, twice widowed. So it was till death do us part. But then after that, it's like, well, time to get another one. 20 kids, 10 kids from 3 marriages and 10 adopted kids. Grandfather was a minister. He trained other ministers. His funeral was like a party. It looked like one of those mega church evangelicals. Pastors were coming all from the American South just to sit here and sing and dance for his funeral. It was an amazing thing. But those days are gone. Those type of Christians aren't here anymore. The ones I saw from the next generation were just full of divorces, full of like all the nonsense you see now. And those are the baby boomers. And now you see my generation, everybody just kind of have like this, they're just like, I'm done with it. But you see a couple guys, they're still hanging on with they still think it's like 1930 and they can be there with Romeo and Elnora, and they can have the 40-year marriage with the 20 children. I mean, we went to go see them on their deathbeds, all that stuff. Those days are gone. They're just gone. I wish they weren't. It sounded pretty great. I mean, they were still dead and they went through a lot of pain beforehand, so that part wasn't very good. But and then you see guys, and what do they end up doing? They take that and they map it to like the deification of women. They call them servant leaders. Rob loves that line. I guess the Mormons are big on it. Servant leaders. You know what that means? I get to run things as long as mom says it's okay. And that's crazy. Imagine that. So not only are you codependent, do you need the validation of women, but your entire masculine identity, anything that makes you feel like a man, a good father, a good patriarch, a great husband, you have to get permission from them. And I'm telling you right now, if you need permission, it's not leadership. It's not. You get leadership through 2 ways. 1, you incentivize people to follow you, coercion. 2, there is some hard authority behind it. The cop is in charge because he gets to shoot you if you try to attack him. Like, that's it. That's the only 2 ways you get it. The military, because he's the captain and that's what you signed up for. It's all you get. This Servant leader thing, again, you're never going to see it another way again. It's codependence. It's a guy asking his wife if he's allowed to play act the part of patriarch. And that's why they always come with these symbols. I talk about them all the time. In fact, a little too much because people are like mapping it onto everything. Keep it in the pocket here. It's that narcissistic fantasy of them being, I am Romeo Edwards. I am that patriarch, preacher, grandfather with the 40-year marriage and 20 kids, and it's great. And they pick their symbols from it. They don't remember what it was actually like back then. They don't know anything like it because they never listened to grandpa's stories. What they did is they just looked, all right, he had a beard, I'll grow a beard. What did he wore flannel, I'll wear flannel. Never mind, grandpa just wore flannel because that was what you could afford back then. And then you were usually a lumberjack, so you had to go out in the woods, and that's why you needed it. But no, they're wearing it as like they're wearing your grandfather's Christianity as a skin suit, asking their wives for permission to be a man while wearing all the costume of it. It's like watching a 7-year-old girl with a wedding dress on. It's like all the parts are there, but you just know something's off. There's something not quite right about this. I'll give one more example of this one, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. It's actually very fucked up. Military guys in the States, let me know if you get something similar to this, by the way, because when we deployed, we were going to the Arabian Gulf, pirate hunting, 6 months in the box, up and down the Somali coast, then eventually doing some saber rattling with Iran in the Straits of Hormuz. Pretty standard stuff. Nothing extraordinary. Afghanistan was still going on at the time. So it's better than being in the desert, having to burn a pile of shit. And before we went, they had the pastor, Canadian Forces pastor, because we didn't really have psychologists, so it was just like the priest took over from it. And he would give us this thing, so you're getting deployed. It's like an infographic pamphlet on what you should expect mentally from the Deployment Act. And they brought up some basic stuff like the, what do they call it? It's like a Six Sigma thing, like the storming, norming, performing, terraforming. The idea is at first, everybody's polite, kind, nice. And then after like 3 weeks, people take down the veneers, your fights will start. Then a week or two later, everything smooths out. It happened like clockwork, by the way. Oh my God. I was slower than everybody else because I tend to be more, I don't want to use the word stoic because I don't want to fluff myself here, but like, I tend to suck it up a bit better than your average bear. And so, yeah, my little moment where I decided to stop being nice happened like 2 weeks after everybody got over it. So that was pretty funny. And I was self-aware enough. I'm like, guys, look, I just get it. It's that deployment point that you were at last week. Just give me a week, stop talking to me, and I'll be fine. And sure enough, then they got mad at me for not talking to them. But then the next week we were fine. But the next thing they said is when you get back, you're most likely to beat your wife 6 weeks after you return. I'm like, what the hell? They would give you this information. It's like, yeah. And then you read through, okay, why does this happen? And they hit it bang on. They're like, look, you're a military guy. Most military men have this image in their head of like the protector and the provider. They usually have stay-at-home wives because you can't move from base to base to base every 3 years and have a girl keep her career. So more often than not, if you're going to be a military spouse, you have to kind of abandon your job and become like a homeowner or a caretaker. So what happens now is you handle everything. I pay the bills. I handle this. You probably, like, there was always jokes that people would just take a garden hose and some ski suit, a ski boot, and stand in front of the oven, pretending like they're still in the ship when they're at home, and they handle everything. And then you deploy. And when you're deployed, you're gone. At best, you can get an email out every now and again, but sometimes you're radio silent. You get nothing. And so your spouse and your kids have to learn to be self-sufficient. They essentially get to be stay-at-home single moms. And, they find out, okay, I can pay bills. That's fine. There's the MFRC. I can get before TikTok, there was what they called the MFRC, the human, or I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically it's like TikTok for military wives in like on stage. My buddy, his fiance at the time, and my other buddy, actually, I'll skip their names on this one. Anyways, their two girls, which they're married to now, went to these one events, and they were like, I am never going back to that hen clucking circle again. We're like, what? All they did was like brag about who brought the best care package to their husband, talked about who was cheating with who. It was like just a big housewives of a Esquimalt pecking order where they were just sitting there trying to get to the top of the soccer mom pecking order. And the other two were like, I want nothing to do with this. And they were pretty girls and they were young too, so of course they're not going to like it because the old fucking fat middle-aged soccer moms were just vicious, man. Middle-aged white women, apex predators, hands down. Anyway, so these women become, everything gets met. Their need for drama and indignant behavior, their bills are paid, their this is done, their that is done. They essentially become self-reliant. The guy gets home. He has just been on deployment. And if you've ever been on deployment, even if it's not like a combat deployment, like you're just in charge. Like here, you're in charge. That $10 million piece of equipment, that's yours. Get in there. I don't care how old you are. You're ready. And you've been training your whole career for these kind of moments, right? So you're ready for it. And you in the pocket, everything just works. Everything's relied on it. You skip protocol as long as it gets the job done. You get home and you're used to being in charge and top of the world. Everything's in your control. And then you find out your family doesn't need you. And at first you think, oh, that's great. I need some time to relax. Guys take a couple weeks. They sit down. They just get drunk for the first couple weeks and relax because, like, it took me 6 months after I got home from a deployment to actually be able to comfortably sleep in a bed. It's one of those weird things. I don't know what it was, but I had to sleep on the sofa for like the first 6 months when I got home. The bed was just too big and spacious, and it's not like the little racks they make you sleep in on a ship. What happens, though, is a guy starts to think to himself, it's like, well, like, where's my identity? I'm not needed anymore. She's doing everything. Why am I even here? Am I just a paycheck? What's wrong with me? And then he starts to get angry about that because his identity in his mind was stolen from him. And so that usually manifests in, smacking your wife around. You're like, Jesus. And the worst part is, like, nobody did anything wrong. Nobody. He did everything he was supposed to do. She did everything she was supposed to do. It still happens because guys keep attaching themselves to this weird codependent behavior. There's something inside of us that needs it. And I don't know if this was always the case or if this is a common phenomenon. I just know it's there and I know it's not healthy. And when I see guys talking about it, all I can think of is like, dude, 6 weeks after your wife says some side-handed shit, you're going to be smacking her around and I don't want to be there for it. And I do not want to be responsible for it. Most brands don't care. They're like, oh, it's not my fault. You wouldn't be surprised. You'd be surprised how fast people distances themselves from all the praise they were giving Roman McClay after he shot 6 people and was suicided by cop. Sam Whiskey, $4.99 super chat. Muhammad the Prophet was a soldier, a businessman, and a husband, and a Chad, by the way. A lot of men can relate to that. Jesus sometimes reminds me of an unmarried superhero. Is this the Tony Stark and Captain America reference here? Fair enough. Oh yeah, so like that's all these stuff kind of come up with codependent behavior. It's not healthy, it's not safe. So like all this can be avoided. And the easiest way to avoid this is stop making your identity dependent on anything to do with the woman. If most of us got home, we were fine. Oh, thank God, the girl's handling all this stuff. Like I got home, a friend of mine, she like got my car out of storage, brought it back to me. Another friend of mine was house sitting for me. She cleaned up the place. That was great. And I called up a girl I hadn't seen in forever. We went on some dates. I'm like, this is awesome. My buddies with their fiancés, they were just handling everything. We went on like a month-long party binge where it's all we did was barbecue and drink in the mornings and then party in the evenings and go out to the bars. It was awesome. And we're like, yeah, we earned it. Everybody came home with like 50 grand in tax-free money and nothing to spend it on. Everybody had already bought their engagement rings. So everything was great. And that's the opportunity that I see here for people. Like you got those two options. You can be that resentful man beating your wife, or you could be the guy having a blast with like 20 friends over at your house enjoying yourself. And all it involves is just removing your codependent behavior. Like I was not red pilled at the time. I didn't know what the term was. I don't think it was even much developed. This was probably like 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. But at the same time, like as soon as people started talking about it, I instantly realized like, oh yeah, that's what we have there. I like green light in the chat here. Yeah, I also had trouble sleeping. Only the whoopee helps. Anyways, so that gets to the first part of it.
Baby, I love you! Baby!
We know that these videos really prey on vulnerable young men who have not had many experiences in dating.
Gotta love these things, man. Bless them women. Bless them hoes. All right, so confusing love and pity, loving the people they can pity and rescue. This one is more for the single guys out there, the I can savor type attitudes. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. The problem isn't like saving people. Some people can be saved, but they kind of have to want to be, and they have to make their own effort. It's a stupid example. It's a Reddit example, so bear with, but it's good. It's good. Trust me, it's okay. Somebody did a screenshot of something where some guy was referencing my content, and he's like, yeah, he starts bringing up narcissistic fantasies and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. Like, it was good. He kind of understood the concept. Totally misplaced what he was placing on it. So I'm here to tell you right now, most people, when it comes to any type of public self-improvement, they don't want self-improvement. They don't care about self-improvement. What they want is validation. They have that codependent behavior, and they've just offshored it instead of being towards a woman in their life, most likely because they don't have one or the one they have can't stand them, onto random assholes on the internet. Happens. If you don't believe me, come check it out. And you'll see it because they come in with like a whole bunch of problems, and they're fairly obvious problems. Like, obviously not from the inside. If your ego's attached to codependency, you might not see them. Normal, happens. But it's never I've tried things and this was the result, it's not working, I'm stuck. It's always, my life is a shit show. What do? I need advice. I haven't done any work. I haven't looked up anything. I don't know anything. Here's my problem. What do I do? And then most guys, because, you know, I used to be that guy that needed help on something, and then I got help when I needed it, forgetting the fact that they put in a little bit of effort first to show they were at least committed, to prove the guy's time was worth it. And so they want to teach. And also, teaching is a great way to retain information. If you write something down, you remember like 30% of it. If you read it, you remember 10% of it. If you teach it, you remember 90% of it. So teaching is a great memory tool. So they start telling the guy all these things. Okay, so your problem is because of this. The solution is this. More often than not, it really is that simple. This is why you're doing it. This is why it's not good. This is what you need to do. And this is what happens if you don't do it. It takes some time, takes some effort. It's a lot of effort. And the guy will respond with like, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you so much. Doesn't do a fucking thing. Nothing. The T-Rex boys in the chat will tell you this. There was a great example of this on Twitter, actually. There's this little Spanish kid. I don't remember his name, but he was sitting here bitching in a thread like, I can't find a girl. I'm so sad. And so as an example, I'm like, I'm going to show you exactly how this works. And I start talking to him. He's like, no, I really want to learn. I just want to get that one girl. And I'm like, okay, so what are your hobbies? What do you do to improve yourself? What do you do to game women? And he had nothing. He's like, all I do is I study Roman history. I'm really good at that. I'm like, all right. First step, women don't give a shit about the triumph. Secondly, and so I gave a big thing, like, it's essentially, it was almost a summary of Praxeology Volume 1. You know, the idea of working out, hormones in check, body in shape, the idea of game and interest in hobbies, the idea of not thinking that women are just effective or just like men. So you do things that appeal to them. You put yourself in places where there's more co-ed spaces so that we can run game. A lot of it's a numbers thing. Like all the standards, like game and frame stuff, you guys probably already know if you're over here. Thanks, man. I'll try it. 2 months later, he's in chat simping for e-girls still. And she's like, all right, fuck, what a waste. And I brought it. I'm like, there you go. Told you. Not a thing would happen. Nothing changed. He's still doing the same thing. He just liked nice words to make him feel better. Lashes out, gets mad at everybody. Everybody's a degenerate. Rollo Tomasi is a degenerate womanizer. It's like he's been married 27 years. Tried that on me. I just want one woman. I don't want to sleep with all the world. I'm like, well, I've had one for 14 years and you've had none. Maybe you're mad at the wrong person in this. He blocked me. But the point is, yeah, the I can save her, bro. It's more than just I can see a damaged girl, and if I could save her from herself, she'll love me unconditionally. It's with helping men. It's with helping women. It's just about, and it all boils down to putting in more effort than the other person. Just remember that. You may not know all of the psychological, aspects of codependency, but I can tell you this. If you're putting in more effort than the other person on something, you're acting codependently. 100%. This is why red pill's a great example. Don't try to red pill your friends, because you're going to put in all this effort. They're going to put in none, and they're going to feel powerful in the situation. They're going to take full advantage of you, and they have every right to, because you told them, hey, I will put in more effort than you So don't do anything. I got this, bro. Never works. So never confuse love for pity. And don't forget, it is pity. Well, I want to help men. It makes me feel better. Yeah, maybe, but it's because you pity them. You pity them because you think they can be better. And then that you're equating to like, I can do something helpful and friendly and loving. And it's not. It's codependency. It's not love. It's pity. Never forget that. It's pity. Let them burn. That's why you're like, why are you guys such an asshole? That's why I'm an asshole. Because the alternative is you become codependent and you start loving the people you should be pitying. Instead, harden the fuck up. Harden up. Treat pity as pity. I pity this person. If he wants help, the first person that can start helping him is himself. Once he starts, if you're so inclined to, feel free. Oh yeah, dude. He's taken 3 steps forward and he's having some troubles. Well, here's how you take 4, 5, and 6. Oh, thank you very much, sir. Hey, no problem. Maybe you'll make a friend. Maybe you'll have an adventure, travel the world with the guy, become lifelong buddies. He becomes the godfather of your kids, and you could be there at your deathbed because your kids can't stand you anymore. And back to the girl. Yeah, the USS Save-A-Ho thing. I mean, that's low-hanging fruit. Do I really need to? Let me know in the chat. Do you really want me to go into girls that have no desire to be saved, that are doing all kinds of thoughterly and degenerative behavior where some nice guy thinks I can save her from herself? Like, do we need to go there? But my son is my best friend. Oh, dude. Chesty nailed it so much there. I guess, yeah, the parenting thing is more fun. I am surprised how often you'll see a guy preaching about you're not supposed to be your kid's best friend. You're supposed to be their parent. And in the same breath, still tell you that he refuses to do anything that will hurt his son's feelings, his best friend's feelings. It's like, I thought they weren't supposed to be your friend. No, they're not. I said the right word, so don't worry about the things that I'm acting on. It's like, Jesus. You know, and I think the best way I could articulate this was, I remember my XO and I were having a conversation. He's actually an awesome guy. I think is he head of the West Coast right now? Anyways, he's like top brass right now, which is crazy when I'm like, dude, we used to have like semaphore. He thought he was pretty good at semaphore, so we used to have to challenge each other, like bag tag each other in the hall. It was like that kind of like frat stuff. And then to watch him, it's like, I'm the tip of the spear today. You're like, Jesus, good for you. But he was sitting there and he was talking to everybody, and we were all talking on the bridge. It was like a mids watch, nothing to do. And he was talking about likability versus effectiveness. Because I think he was talking about XOs. You should always hate your XO. If you're not hating your XO, he's not doing the right job. You should love the captain, hate the XO. And he goes, because yeah, what do you want? Do you want an executive officer that's likable, that's a friend you can go have a beer with? Or do you want one that's good at his job? And all I said to him was like, well, sir, if you're good at your job, that makes you extremely likable. He goes, fair. Absolutely right. Nobody cares if you're an asshole. Nobody cares if you're nice. Nobody cares. This stuff is all tangential to attraction. Men or women. Tangential. You can be a biggest asshole, but that's my asshole. You can be the nicest guy in the world. That guy would give you the shirt off your back. He's the kindest guy ever. Nothing to do with it. Nothing. What has to do with it? Is he fucking switched on? Like, can I look up to this guy? Your boss. Do you aspire to be your boss? If so, people love Steve Jobs to this day. He was a prick. Like, not even an absolute prick. Engineers built the first iPad, took them like 6 months. All the greatest technology. They reinvented circuit boards, whatever. What did he do? He grabbed it and he threw it in a fish tank. Get this piece of shit out of here. Go build me a better one, you fucking idiots. And what'd they do? They went back and they built a better one. And now they're sitting here on San Francisco radio talking about Steve Jobs was the greatest man ever. He once kicked me out of his office because I looked funny. I looked him in the eyes. Never look him in the eyes. Trump, like him or hate him, but the guys who love him, they fuck. That's asshole. That's my asshole. See how he was yelling at me? Yeah, you should have seen what he did to Rosie O'Donnell. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So yeah, it's an evil covert contract where they think if they can find a deficient woman and show her a better way, that she'll love him forever and he'll have a problem-free life. The problem with this life is that, like with anything else, it doesn't work. She doesn't want to be saved. People act the way they act because they want to act that way. I think I've often said it, is that people have the life that they wanted, whether they know it or not. And it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So if you see a girl that's thotting around in the club, or the 40-year-old spinster without kids that's got cats in the cat litter and wine drinking and stuff like that, she's happy with that life. She may say she's not happy with it, but if she wasn't happy with it, she would have changed it. So it's the exact life she wanted. Some people just want to be miserable. Maybe she's even happy. Who knows? Dude, how many times have you seen or known a mom growing up that hates her fucking kids? Do you remember how that kid turned out? I would have much rather had that woman be a spinster. Much rather. It's way better than having 5 fucked up kids that are drains on the system, you know? That dude got choked on the New York subway recently. If you guys haven't seen it, Michael Jackson got choked out in a subway, and it's racism or something. I guarantee you his mom was like just negative as fuck. Anyways. Yeah, so they're living the life they want to live. And so when you come in telling somebody, I know better than you, maybe you do. Maybe your life is better. Absolutely true. Could be true. I'll tell you this, though, right now. If I walked up to you guys and tell you your life is all wrong, you need to change it and do what the fuck I tell you, you'll tell me to go fuck myself. Now imagine you're doing that with a girl you're dating. What's she gonna do? She's gonna tell you to go fuck yourself, and as she should. You shouldn't have to be selling people Amway products for your life. Sam Whiskey, $1.99 super chat. Cross the Rubicon. Don't show your kids for clout. Dude, I will die on that hill. To this day, I am still amazed how many people will talk and show off their kids, their dead and dying relatives online to get likes. And don't this is how I vent, and this is how I get this is my therapist. Like, it's not your therapist, it's the fucking internet. Now, this is different than like a Facebook. I get it. Facebook, it's friends and family can see your stuff. That's it. That's the point of it. It's family photos on the little slide projector. But we're talking like Twitter. We're talking about YouTube. You don't start parading this stuff around. What's wrong with you? You're turning yourself into a sideshow freak show, thinking that, and then everybody else is so worried because they do it too, that it's all like this self-enabling crap. You want to know how we got like Dylan Mullaney on Bud Light? That's how you get that. People cheerleading their own fucking mental anguish onto others, and other people cheering them for it. Well, might as well cut off my dick. Like, Jesus, dudes. Stop doing it. Where'd I leave off? Sam got me all off topic. Or all off topic here. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Okay. And so the final point I had with this one was about the symbols. I talk a lot about narcissism. Yes, I get it. It's huge. It deserves its own topic. Point here is that people attach onto the symbols. That's why you see flannel and beards a lot with the traditional masculinity servant leader types. They want to look like a man. They want to wear the skin suit of a man without having to take responsibility for any of those things that the man that they picture is doing. That's why you have to ask permission from your wife before you become a man. And the problem with that is these symbols aren't just about him. It's the symbols about girls. That's why every 3 months you're going to see a girl with tattoos belong in the streets. A girl with colored hair belongs in the streets. A girl with a septum ring belongs in the streets. Like, look, whores don't wear uniforms, man. Cock teases will dress like whores. Whores will dress like good girls. And good girls dress like tomboys. I know. But that's the point. Like, nobody dresses to parade what they want to say. They don't. Because if you are a slutty chick that feels bad about sleeping around with a bunch of guys, the last thing you're going to want to do is dress just like that, because then people treat you like that and then you feel bad. So whores will dress like normal people. That's why when you get a girl that's been riding that carousel for 20 years and then finally settles down at 32 in hopes of starting a family in 5 years, they put on a sundress and a summer hat, because that's the most chaste, virginal, yet attractive outfit they can think of. No hate on Allie here with her, what is it, Old Navy summer dress. That was how we met, by the way. Funniest thing. You remember that big meme where she was wearing like the same summer dress that the Wojak trad chick was wearing? And I laughed. I'm like, this is such performative nonsense. And it turns out it was just the one that was on sale. So I'm like, all right, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. And so you got to stop looking at women with your heart and start looking at them with your eyes. All these traits don't matter. Some of the worst women I've ever met, I don't mean like high notch counts. I just mean physically, emotionally, mentally, verbally horrible people. Wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire. Well, at the time I would have, but now I'm definitely smarter. No, Melissa, we're not going back to this thing. This is ridiculous. Anyways, yeah, They don't give any signs for it. Not from the way they dress, not from their hair color, not from their hairstyle, not from anything. Just by their actions. And so if you stop looking with your heart, if you stop attaching yourself to these symbols, and you start actually just watch how a girl acts, you'll be amazed how honest they are. It's called the early frame announcement. And if you've never watched my sidebar series, specifically Practical Female Psychology for the Practical Man, I would say go do it. Because that right in there, the early frame announcement, is a wonderful concept. You know that saying, like when a girl tells you who she is, believe her? That's what it's there. But the problem is guys don't listen. They don't listen because they don't want to. They ignore all that stuff because they're looking at the symbols. I don't care if she talked about burning babies alive. Sundress, summer hat, took a picture in a cornfield. Good relationship with her father. She's wearing Birkenstocks, or I don't know what the fuck people are into now. She's got a Louis Vuitton bag, but no, it's Coach, so it's cheaper, so it's good, so she's frugal. And they got this checklist of stupid shit, and none of it maps to reality. Meanwhile, she's the worst woman you ever met. Yeah. Volga Vanna White, $6.99 super chat. Thoughts on dating women in masculine jobs, police, military, border services? Oh, well, this one's easy. In my time in the Navy, I noticed that all service women were dating servicemen. And outside of those servicemen were predominantly dating civilian girls. Yeah, so my gut instinct tells me don't. I've never seen any good of it, but again, if you're in the police, she's probably going to marry another policeman. If she's in the military, she's probably going to marry another military guy. If she's border services, she's probably going to marry another border services guy. They just, I don't know if it's they treat the workplace as their fishing pond. I don't know if it's because other people look down upon those things as though her options are limited. Don't know, don't care. It's just what I've seen. And in fairness, with Chad, he's saying, I've never met one that wasn't a screaming red flag. I say yes, but I also know there's been a few that have been really good. Definitely a minority. Two of examples I could think of. Didn't hoe around, didn't cheat on their husband, stayed in shape. It was pretty amazing. One was Polish, and the other one was, I think she was like a Cape Breton. Anyways. It's like cyclists. Is he doing another metaphor? Yes, I'm doing another metaphor. Everybody hates cyclists because, they're just weaving things. They don't care about anything. The problem is the people that cycle like idiots are very visible. You can see them. The guy that cuts you off, you know who he is. The people that are riding their bike safely, they're invisible. You don't even notice they're there, which is kind of scary because those are the ones that always get hit. The crazy dudes never get hit. I think it's the same thing there. So yeah, just keep in mind, by the stats, she's probably going to be a big walking red flag. But again, I just told you 10 minutes ago that symbols aren't helpful. Just judge it by behavior and actions. Like, you shouldn't have to ask what a girl does for a living before you make an opinion of her. Just let her talk for 5 minutes. Go on a date with her. See how she treats you. See how she treats others. Having said that, a 6-month deployment. One chick on there, I felt so bad for her husband because he was deployed to Afghanistan while she was deployed to the Gulf with us. She was spending his money and she spent her money. She spent all the money. We were in Oman, and Oman was like a 4-to-1 exchange rate. So $4 Canadian for one, I don't know, Scoobies. I can't remember what they're called. And she was spending them like dollar parity. Everybody was having fun. It was such a good party. She fucked like 15 guys from the department. They eventually had to kick her off the ship and send her home. Luckily for the military, her dad died. So like, we got to ship her back quickly. Coxon didn't even ask her for permission. She's like, yeah, your father died. You're no longer mission viable. We have to send you home. Because there was fights starting. It was absolutely brutal. There was a couple chicks that were doing that, and they started some fights. I'm actually surprised that a lot of those didn't go to Club Ed, like military jail, for the kind of shit they pulled, like throwing fists at officers and stuff. But, chicks. Having said that, there were 2 or 3 that just kind of stayed out of trouble and did their own thing. But I don't know. It's your risk. You take it if you want to. No, the sea hag was divorced. Oh, you remember the sea hag? Yeah, no, she was divorced. She was a tease, though. That's totally different. That's not the one I'm thinking of. Oh, yeah, her, dude. I still can't believe guys were like thirsting over her. It was like the most amazing thing ever. I was like, how in the hell do you find this girl attractive in any way? Other than she's wearing a pair of coveralls and knows how to turn a wrench. Maybe that's it. It's kind of like the same as guys love girls that churn butter. I don't know. Anyways, enough of that. We're starting into Sailor Story territory, and I have some things to discuss here.
One of the guys who ran the Red Pill channel sent me a message. I actually appreciate that you took it from an idea-based perspective instead of ever resorting to personal attack. Like, if this movement is actually going to be dangerous, do we need to understand it so that we can take it down? I knew going into it that this might be a hot mess. I'm not going to have those guys back on my channel again. Absolutely not.
Those guys were absolute jerks. You know what they did? They were just honest. All right. Becoming hurt when people don't recognize your efforts. The covert contract, man. It's codependence, it's narcissism, it's covert contract, it's everything I'm trying to discuss here wrapped into one simple thing. Covert contract. If I do this, she'll respond with this, and we don't have to talk about it, and I'll live a problem-free life. It's just amazing. And it turns out it's because they treat life as transactional, but like they aren't willing to take responsibility for it. Think of it like servant leaders. You know, I need mommy to tell me that I'm a real man. It's this thing here. I need other people to validate the decisions I've made because I don't want to take responsibility for them. Because if I do, there's a chance she'll get mad at me and abandon me. And the 2-year-old in my little inner brain is terrified of that. And so he will fight tooth and nail for it. And so that's the plan. Sneaky fucker game. How did I put it here? I have an example. Oh yeah, so like when he does chores, it's because I want you to be comfortable so you'll fuck me. Everything has a price tag attached. If I rub your feet, it's because I want to fuck you afterwards. If I go out on a date with you, it's because I want you to put out afterwards. But they don't just say that. In the 80s, they used to say that. There was this saying, ass, cash, or grass. Nobody rides for free. And the joke was, if you come with me in my car, because I'm like a teenager who's got the cool Camaro or whatever, that if you wanted to come in the car, you got to bring something to the table. Bring something to the table. And it was usually like, either you're sleeping with me, you're bringing me some money for gas, or you got some weed. And that was the joke. Oh yeah, no, Santiago, I know about that one. It's off topic, so I'll get to that a bit later. So when the guy does that, but he doesn't want to take responsibility for what he wants, and I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, but at least it's honest. That he will just basically get in the car, and you should just know that this stuff is the way it is. You should just know that this is what you're supposed to do. Why would you go on a date with me and not know that at the end of it we're supposed to have sex? So that way they avoid the whole, men are entitled. I'm not entitled. I would never do that to a woman. But if the woman didn't do that, you'd be pretty fucking mad about it. So, like, you know, 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. And this is why women are so embittered. And again, I'm not holding water for women here. It's just kind of, it's an empathy thing. I understand why they're the way they are. I get it. I would be too if I had to deal with men all day. I technically do, and I can see it. Probably why I'm turning into like an angry feminist broad. Get out of here, you beta male. Yeah, it's just little things. Take a girl on a date, she doesn't put out, and they get angry about it. How dare you treat me like that? Oh, she's probably a lesbian. You're such a bitch. Such a misogynist. Feminism has ruined women because I did all these nice things. They didn't do fuck all for me. And it carries over. It's not just single guys, it's married guys too. Dude, I pay all the bills. I just want to come home, get a martini made for me, sit on the couch and watch some football. And she's entitled. She's like, dude, I do all the mental labor around the house, and I've been on my phone for 5 hours today, and all I ask is at the end of the day, you take over the kids for me because I've been seeing them crying all day because they wanted to eat and I was busy on Facebook Marketplace. So you got two groups of people that are just entitled, selfish brats. And then the guy gets mad over it. The girl's already mad over it because girl gets mad. I'm not here to fix women. I'm here to fix guys. Or at least show guys how other guys got fixed. And you end up with these horrible situations. It's like a feedback loop, all right? Covert contract, broken covert contract, resentment over the broken contract, make a new covert contract, etc., etc., etc. And this is how you end up with a marriage that just dwindles into misery after some years, right? Just misery. Miserable people having miserable lives, and it's all self-inflicted. And you'll get the same thing. You ask for one person, hey, dude, why aren't you just nicer to your husband? She, fuck you. You know what he does? Fuck this. And she doesn't want to budge. And you tell the guys like, dude, you ever thought about being nicer to your wife? And he's like, fuck you. She's a bitch. Of course, most people tell the guy to fuck it. You just man up and fix her problems. And it's like, those aren't the problems. There was a great thread on Twitter yesterday, or not yesterday, last week, 2 weeks ago. The T-Rex guys will know this one, where some chick was bragging about the kid was like a couple weeks old or 6 weeks old, and then she was bragging about what her husband did. Husband basically did everything. And she's like, all I did was breastfeed my kid and exist. She sat there. Now, I'm not saying at that age the woman should be out, like, putting on the gloves, walking the dog. I tried to get out a Steven Crowder critique on this kind of thing, but I was so sick that day. I'm actually kind of amazed that YouTube tags and topical subjects matter so much more than content, because I was sick. I was sneezing constantly. My nose was running like a faucet. I had to quickly flick the screen off and on. There was a period there where it was just like a black screen. More views than my best content ever. And I was like, Jesus Christ. God damn it. Nothing hurts your feelings. Anyways, enough of that. Yeah, so back on this thing. So yeah, you get this. And the problem is the only solution people have is coddle women. Oh, they're the pregnant one. Yeah. And so it was like, why more please put it out? He's like, it's amazing how many women are so entitled that they think once they become pregnant, they become functionally useless human beings. Like, they can't move around, they can't walk, they can't nothing. And it's not so much about what should you do as a functional family. That's a logistic issue that you can work out between the two of you. You're functional adults, I hope. But the issue there is somebody being entitled and needy and lazy and ego-driven, and then coddling that. And that's the problem with most guys are in these situations. Like, somebody has to make a move. So they tell the guy, well, coddle and enable this behavior. And guys are like, no, I don't think that's the right solution. Like, what I'm doing is clearly not working, but what you're doing is just going to make it worse. And they're absolutely right. And again, this is where it has to be. Like, stop seeking validation from your women. Absolutely. Get rid of the covert contracts. At least your side is no longer making things worse. She will try to make things worse, but part of understanding the modern sexual marketplace, especially in relationships, is learning to stop making things worse and to stop letting that girl fuck with you because she's able to. Women will treat you as shitty as you let them. And so what's the problem? Don't let them. Well, that's wrong. She should be like it. Just don't let her. Well, how do I stop her? You don't stop her. You stop letting it affect you. How do I do that? Well, I don't know. Maybe there's a fucking 8 hours of podcast, 3 books, 7 other books from that guy, sidebar stuff here, 10 years of work here. Try looking at some of it. Let me know if you run into any problems, because I'm tired of spoon feeding you on it. That's what we call a throwback, or a Chekhov's gun. Anyways. See, and Matt, meta step, whatever. I've given up on finding a relationship. You're not supposed to. It's not your job to find a relationship. Your job is to be attractive. Peacocks are meant to look like peacocks. Female peacocks are meant to find beautiful peacocks. Now, find out what your beautiful peacock feathers are. That's the luxury branding stuff that the Red Pill is mostly discussing. Anyways, and then the girl's job is to lock you down. Like, I have yet to meet a guy that I know who's worth a damn, who wasn't in a relationship or married or had a family, because at some point his girl wasn't cajoling him, crying to him, pushing him, pressuring him for all this stuff. They drag you into a relationship kicking and screaming in the same way that you drag a girl to happiness kicking and screaming. It's just what it is, man. Yeah, Sluggo, you're kind of getting it. That's actually the point that I was making in my video. He's saying covert contracts are like a rabbit hole that runs deep, and at its core, it's almost like Buddhist non-attachment. Yeah, it's that she's not yours, it's just your turn. That was the point of it. Non-attachment. Everything is a choice. Every day, this is like the best relationship dynamic, is where every day you wake up, you look at the person, and you decide to be loyal to them. Making it as a choice. What about the marriage contract? The marriage contract doesn't mean shit. All it is to saying, okay, look, if I decide not to anymore, I'll pay you for the pleasure of letting me hate your ass. Well, it's not even that men are supposed to perform. I mean, it's not wrong, but I don't like the way it's framed. Saying men are supposed to perform is like saying women, their whole job is to put out. It's like, yes, but it's not really the good way to look at it. Healthier way to look at it is that just like incentives matter. Everything is a choice. Her deciding to be available to you sexually is a choice. You deciding to be loyal to her is a choice. And what does it matter that it's a choice? Well, if it's a choice, that means the other person has to work for it. They have to incentivize it. They have to, for lack of a better word, earn it. And if you're a couple, you've been together 14 years, 27 years, 30 years, yeah, every day is still a choice. There's no moment where it's like, well, we got the fuck trophies, that's it. No takesy backsies. It's like, that's not how it works, man. So where did I leave off on this one? Oh, that one doesn't work. What the hey? We'll go. Oh yeah, Pat Stedman.
I love the way girls smell. I love how they always make sure, by and large, they shower, and they just have an amazing smell to them in general.
They do smell great. That mixture of sweat and cologne. That smell of your brother-in-law. What the fuck? So unhealthy dependence on relationships. Codependent will do anything to hold on to a relationship to avoid the feelings of abandonment. The saddest quality of codependent men. It's so common that everyone has at least one friend like this. She cheats on him, but he wants to talk it out. He wants to communicate. He accepts the flimsiest apologies with the least amount of effort. She treats him like shit, but the fear of, divorce rape is ever present. It's like Damocles' sword with a set of tits. So, man's afraid to upset his wife. He walks on eggshells. He fears standing up to her in case she decides to go feral. It's pathetic, man. It's pathetic. And if you've never uttered the words, shut the fuck up to your wife, no matter how crazed her rants, then this is closer than you may be comfortable with. It's a quote from the Substack, but yeah, absolutely. There's an unhealthy dependence on relationships because guys are afraid of being alone when they're codependent. And to some extent, Metastep is here. I had to give up on finding a woman. It's like, why do you need to find one? You don't need to find one. You don't. There shouldn't be anything you need that a woman will complete. They're not meant to be a piece of the pie. They're not meant to be that final thing. They're not meant to be the thumb in the dike. They're not meant to be anything. What they're meant to be is a supplement. And you got to get everything else in place. Make yourself into like a self-actualized, top tier, whatever buzzword you want to throw on. High value man or high value male. You can't say man. You have to say high value male. That makes it sound more clinical. Oh, well, that's science. High value male is a clinical term. Everybody knows this. Everybody in the science academy knows this. Look, it's a white lab coat and everything. Yeah. So, where was I going with this? Oh, the Damocles sword thing. Yeah, and so you get these things where guys think that a woman will complete me. And then they get the woman, because hate to say it, but even shit tier dudes can land a woman. It's not hard unless you're really going out of your way not to do it. But the problem is, then they find out, okay, my life's still not complete. All those piece of shit guy problems I had before, I still have those piece of shit guy problems now. This is not good. It's not good. So what do I do about it? Well, blame it on her. It's clearly her fault for being a piece of shit. Oh, is it really? Kind of is. It's not really. Just saying. Yeah, you live the life you want to live. Med, I'm using you as an example here. I'm not shitting on you. I don't know you from Adam. I only know what you told me on there, and it's a nice segue, so don't take it personal. I would have just as happily used the next guy. There's always somebody talking about it. Never take this stuff personal. I don't know you guys. You guys don't know me. We don't know each other. So whenever we're talking about these certainties in life, just take it off. No, it really is. Jesus, what an ass. So part of it comes down to like the need to find a girlfriend for whatever reason. And they should be kind of coming to you. Maybe not all of the women should be coming to you, but there's at least one that's coming to you, or a couple. Hopefully a few. The more that are coming to you, the better off you are at choosing on somebody who fits your needs, or validates your worldview, or whatever it is you want. Like, oh, it just makes my life better, more comfortable. But then the problem comes. Those guys, when they get into relationships, and this is where that codependency really kicks in, because it tends to attract narcissist women. And you're like, I thought women were supposed to be borderline. Isn't male narcissism? It's true, but that's the problem. So a borderline searches for the biggest identity and then latches onto that. That's how they base their identity on the strongest identity in the room. I'm the co-host to Conan O'Brien, Ed McMahon, those kind of guys. Problem is, if that identity doesn't exist, Women tend to invent it for themselves. Power abhors a vacuum. I think Last Psychiatrist put it this way. It's you take a borderline and you put her on a deserted island with nobody around, they will eventually stop becoming borderline. That's not the crazy part, though. The crazy part is she becomes a narcissist. And so, yeah, when you meet a lot of these guys, and you ever wonder why, how come all these like 35-year-old chicks are so demanding when they have like less value than otherwise? It's because psychologically, they're on that deserted island. They've had no strong identity to attach on for their entire adult lives. That's why they're entitled, because they have become the man that they wanted to date. And have you ever wondered, like, dude, why is this chick an asshole? It's like, because she wants to date an asshole desperately. And because no asshole wanted her, because she was whatever, she decided to make her own. That's the feminine version of a guy with one of them waifu anime pillows, you know? He's not the Messiah, he's a very naughty boy. Yeah, and then the guy, once he gets with her, it's just something to latch onto. It's the strongest identity in the room. It's a complete role reversal of men and women. We talk about in the Praxeology of the dominant male, how the male dominant monogamous relationship, it's the most stable one historically, so it's the one we kind of go with. You can talk about these outlier cases if you want to, but I'm not about to give you a strategy on it, because it's kind of like cheating or having a mistress. If you're ready to have a mistress, you don't need a fucking manual on it. You don't need help from anybody else. So if you're the guy that's going to blow up your fucking marriage, then you're absolutely going to read it on a help guide and like, all right, that's what I'm supposed to do. Sounds good. So it's almost one of those things that you just don't need a guide on. Don't. Same as this. I'm not going to give you a poly guide, because if you're the kind of guy who can make poly work, I guarantee you it's not going to help the average guy. And if the guy is ready for that, he can't pick it up in a book. He just can't. So yeah, you get these guys that act like defective women that have become narcissists on their deserted island. And granted, I know a lot of it is just because guys like, I haven't found a woman and I got divorced. Now they're 40 and they're just tired. Been henpecked my entire life. And there's this narcissist boss bitch that's like, yeah, I like this guy. And then she gets that. Actually, the savvy chick, the one that was like, I'm not having those red pill guys on again. That was her dynamic. She had some story about like Uncle Touchy, or I don't know specifically. I don't want to shit on her. That's not the point of this. Some kind of like, traumatic thing. And she dated, and she was basically the narcissist. She ran the show. She did all the talking. She had the most effeminate, passive husband ever. That was a codependent narcissist role reversal if I've ever seen one. And it was absolutely crazy. Like, I'm not going to say anything to them because it's not my life. But from an academic perspective, from an abstract perspective, from like a learning experience, like that's the kind of dysfunction you're trying to avoid, man. Now, if that works for you, fill your boots. But I'm just telling you, generally speaking, nobody's ever happy in those situations. Everybody's running through it because that's what they know, but they're never happy. And I think that's the worst part, is that the codependent guys are doing this because they think it makes them happy. Or at least it stops making them miserable, but it doesn't. But they're convincing themselves it does. It's like heroin, right? Every time you get those withdrawals, you're like, oh, you know what would make me feel great right now? A little bit of heroin. And technically, all heroin's doing is making you feel bad, but then making you feel worse. So yeah, don't fuck heroin, boys. Oh, yeah. All right, so we got 15 more minutes here. I got a good one. Let me, give me somebody. Actually, you know what? Let's do some book stuff.
Single moms. A horrible position that's not my problem.
Love that one. One more Stedman. Fuck it.
You want to tell me why the majority of people that voted yes, I can be submissive are men?
Just want to talk a little bit about why I love women.
And the majority that said no are women? I would love y'all to ponder that for a fucking second!
I love how they always make sure, by and large, they shower the feminine energy that girls put out. It's magnetic.
You think I can be submissive? You fuck!
I adore it.
It's one of my favorites. That's in a Red Pill Coffee video, by the way. I think you'll love it. It's the one, you'll see her face on the thumbnail. Seeing these two back-to-back shows, so much Rand's style has evolved. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that, I think. So a compelling need to control others. This is the other one. This is the evil velvet glove over the iron fist of neuroticism. So codependent men are, generally speaking, neurotic. Women generally neurotic. And so you can almost use this as like, when I talk about codependent men, you can in your head think, how do I deal with my wife? Same shit. Like I talk about it often. The men raised to be defective women. Neuroticism, predominantly a feminine quality. This is not my opinion. This is not some red pill opinion. You talk to any scientist worth their salt, any researcher in any of this stuff, and they talk about the big 5 personality traits. Women dominate the top end of neuroticism. And it makes sense. They don't know how to wield cudgels against antelope. They don't know how to team up and fight a bison. That's a guy thing. And guys are like, we have that, enough testosterone that we don't fear death nearly as much. So yeah, women are neurotic. Dude, I could pick berries and then that tiger's gonna eat me. I'm fucking done. Guys are like, dude, that tiger's gonna eat me. I'm not picking no goddamn berries. Anyways, enough science talk. I don't want to lose you guys in the jargon. The way people cope with high neuroticism is by attempting to control. You ever wondered why like nagging is a feminine quality too? That's why, because like they're anxious about something, and so like getting your point across, like nagging, is their way of staving off that anxiety. So a lot of times it's like nagging you to do something to stave off the anxiety. You go do it. They feel better. Ideally, is it healthy? Is it not? It's not the point. It's just the dynamic. So the problem with codependent men is they need to control others. And that's where you get this whole women need to be barefoot and pregnant. This is where you get that whole women shouldn't ever do this and don't ever do that. And you ever notice this? Like a lot of the trads are especially big on this. Is because they always want to control female sexuality. Now I'm not society wise, like I'm not talking about that shit. I'm talking about individuals. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about me. When you're with a girl and you're just dating, there's no expectation of infidelity. Show me in the Bible where it says girlfriend and boyfriend need to be monogamous after 30 days or something. It's not there. There's no law about it. Hell, there's no law about adultery as adults. So it's, again, choice. You have to accept there's no control in this situation and be okay with it. Where there's a lack of control, there's an abundance of choices you can make to ensure your own best interests are met. But that's what people do. I've been dating this guy for 2 weeks. I'm calling him constantly. Show me your phone. Act all controlling. Not an attractive behavior, but aside from that, it's not about them. It's not that they're a cheating whore. It's that you're a neurotic, dysfunctional, like woman-brained guy. Let me put it this way. If you're with a girl and she's giving you every indication that she's not loyal, why are you with her? Why don't you just leave? You've been dating for 2 months. Who cares? Well, she should just... Exactly. It's because you're afraid of being alone, and so you want to control her, so that way she makes you feel better about yourself. Imagine that. Your goal is to be my Ativan. Your goal is Ritalin for me, madam. I need you to be those same SSRI drugs I'm taking to stave off my neuroticism. Imagine that. This woman is my pharmacological solution. Can you imagine somebody putting you in that position? I am not your drug pusher, man. I am not your pills you keep popping. Get out of here. So yeah, it's a control, but that's the same thing. If you're not afraid of abandonment, if you're shedding those codependent behaviors as a child, and yeah, somebody starts acting a way that shows you they ain't loyal, and you're okay with that, that's fine. I wish you luck, madam. It's called being aloof, having abundance. Dating a girl. All of a sudden, she's hiding her phone from me. Takes a shower the instant she gets home at 3 a.m. Starts crying, talking about being a good girl. It's like, oh, the signs are all there. Don't hit your ass on the door on the way out. I know that's harder to say if you've been married for 10 years, 2 kids, and then she decides to go feral, but, what are you going to do? Try and control her? Too late, man. Damage has been done. Chances are, over the last 7 years, there was a lot of warning signs and a lot of bad behavior on your part that made this all but inevitable. Nobody seemed to care back then, so why is everybody having a hissy fit now? You know what I mean? Like, I've yet to see a girl that's been that fucking brutal to a guy that just did it out of fucking nowhere. No signs. Even the mass killing dudes, everybody's like, he was such a nice boy. It's like, no, man. Elliot Rodger had a YouTube channel with 500 I'm gonna fucking murder everybody videos. Roman McClay was writing a book. Nobody read it, but inside that was whole, man, at one point, the fucking incels are gonna come in here and murder everybody. People are gonna rise up and shoot 6 people and get shot by the cops. I swear to God. And he wrote about it. He wrote what he was doing, and then he did it. So nothing, ass whoopings don't fall out of the sky. They don't fall out of the sky. Girls don't just go feral out of nowhere. It's usually because they're missing something. They're super attached to a guy, hypergamous best option, till he isn't, and then when he isn't, their behavior changes. Like as a guy, just look. If you see a girl automatically start changing behaviors out of nowhere with no external reason for it, without any history to it. She never used to like death metal. All of a sudden she's listening to death metal and wants to go to a concert at 3 a.m. with her girlfriends in Vegas. What the hell? Signs on the wall, sir. Well, no, how dare you? You sit here, you don't do fucking nothing. Blah, 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 blah. How dare you control me? You can't do shit. What does she do? She sneaks off while you're sleeping. The more you try to control, the more things just fall through, man. And you have to accept there's like some things you can't control. She's not yours. It's just your turn. Yeah, it's nihilistic and whatever. It's realistic because the alternative is if you're in one of those situations where your wife or girlfriend goes feral, decides to go do whatever she is that she wants to do, and it's not in your best interest, but she does think it's in hers, you got two options. You could be that guy who's trying to be controlling, gets arrested, starts a shotgun, or you can be the guy that learns to let go. Okay, I'm still attractive. I have options. I can work through this. I can get custody of the kids. It's not ideal. It's not best, but it's really the healthiest way out of a shit situation. It's just the compelling need to control other people. It just doesn't work because you can't. All you can do is offer ultimatums, and ultimatums only matter if somebody gives a shit about losing you. It only works if they're codependent themselves. And if you're a codependent, I guarantee you the other person's not. You can't have two codependents together. There's always the other person. There's always the person that withholds their love to get what they want from the codependent. It's never a case of two codependents talking to each other. And yeah, we can lump these ones together. Yeah, and there's like a rigidity and a difficulty adjusting to change. That's kind of tapped into it too. The idea that part of the control is that nothing changes. This will always be this way. We always have the white picket fence. We'll always have this. You'll stay thin and attractive forever. You will do this. You will do this. Life does not change. I got it. I got my sofa problem solved. Remember that scene from Fight Club? Where he's like, yeah, do you know what a duvet is? And he's like, it's a blanket. It's just a blanket. And he goes, I was thinking about it. My closet was respectable. I had the perfect IKEA plates. Like, my sofa is a great, nice sofa. And I'm like, no matter what goes on with my life, that sofa problem is solved. And he's like, now it's all gone. It all burned up, huh? Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Need to control things. They end up controlling you. Yeah, you can't have two subs. But this works both ways, right? So you just take the opposite of this codependent behavior and you realize this is, I don't know, red-pilled behavior. Instead of not adjusting to change, you're navigating change. Okay, things have changed. Girl's gone feral. I go do my own thing. Now, there's a bunch of solutions. I'm not going to say which ones the right ones are. It all depends on your situation. Your wife decides to go start cheating on you. Maybe the kids are a year from going to college and moving out. Maybe your best solution is to suck it up for 12 months, play stupid, gather evidence, and then drop the divorce when the kids move out, and bam, you're good to go. Maybe the kids are brand new, young, she's doing this, developing a drug problem. For the sake of your kids, you got to take action, build up evidence, make sure you get custody, so she can go be Radfem Hitler on Twitter and like lose custody of her kids. Maybe that's your option. But that's the point, is that you have to know what you want out of the situation and don't be a knee-jerk reactionary about it and stop trying to control the situation. What you need to do is navigate it. And that's ultimately what the red pill is about. Navigating the sexual marketplace, not controlling it, not being rigid and demanding it not change, navigating it. Yeah, my ex wanted to be the one in charge. That was the problem from the start. Absolutely. But that's the thing, though. So she was the one that wanted to be in charge, but she got attracted to you. Again, I'm not using you as an example. I'm just using this as an example. Most guys who have hyper-controlling wives tend to be the kind of guys that those hyper-controlling wives are attracted to. Ones that at least look like they're easily manipulatable. And there's no shame in it. Most guys were raised to be that. And so it's hard to shed those behaviors. So I don't begrudge a man for that. I begrudge a man when he decides it's the best thing for him. It's like, you're allowed to advance and move on. A lot of guys had that, where they finally became their mental point of origin and their wife was like, I don't want a man. I want a floor mat. And then they leave. And it happens. But like, how bad did you want it? I wanted to be a man in control of my life bad enough that if other people don't want that in my life, in their life, then they can go. That was fine. That's fine. So we're going to have one more point. We're going to do some bants at the end of it.
Boom, what's up fam? Got some big news to share that unfortunately is not so good, so I'm gonna jump right into it. You're gonna watch this video and you're gonna cry. At least we can laugh at your eyes as you cry like in the corner like a little f***ing girl in the fetal position.
I know I joke, but that goofy bastard, fuck, he's the gift that keeps on giving. He's blocked me for like years now, but every now and then one of you guys will send me something and I ask for screenshots because I'm like, I can't read it. But everything he says is stupid. What's the context of that clip? Oh, I think it was the one of his Rollo Tomassi hit pieces. He was going to talk about the fraud known as Rollo Tomassi. Yeah, guilty. And I don't even know I never watched the thing. I still have it downloaded. I just grabbed it because I like watching him spurg out and just put some clips on it. Anyways, I got to put on another one quickly.
Sounds very paranoid to me. Like, Still Read is quite paranoid to me, but it does screams a little bit of somebody who is very paranoid on anyone. I think I do think there's an element of suspicion. Like, if you are feeling a certain level of vulnerability, that I think this guy definitely is.
Yeah, that girl's white as paper. So lying, dishonesty, poor communications, lack of decision-making abilities. This is the last one. I'm not going to belabor it a lot because we're running short on time. I wanted to keep this one a tight 90. It's hiding the badness. It's nice guy behavior. It's very standard Glover stuff. So what guys do is because they're afraid of abandonment, part of their codependent behavior is like, I don't want you to think anything of me that would make you think lesser of me because then you might abandon me. And so that's where the lying comes from. It's one of those things like red pill guys, like never lie. Why? Because it's honorable and like, no, because if you're lying, that ultimately means you want the other person to validate you and you feel the need to lie about them. And it's like, it's one of those weird things that people are like, wait, you can act moral, but not for moral reasons. It's like, who cares? Just don't lie. Well, what if I don't want her to know this stuff? And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? It's like, don't tell her. Say it's none of your fucking business. But I'm not going to lie to you. I tell that to my girl all the time. I may make you cry, but I will never lie to you. She knows. And if it's something I don't want to tell her, I'm just like, not talking about this. And that just has to be good enough. And if it's not good enough, then she's welcome to leave. And your girl's welcome to leave too. But that's the thing. You have some confidence in your ability to be good enough for the person that you're allowed to just not want to talk about something, and that's okay. Yeah, you just described my ex, super controlling. I let her control for a while. When I decided to take power, the marriage imploded. Now she's married to a super doormat. Yeah, that's just what they want. And so, yeah, the lying, the dishonesty, and the lack of communication, that's the problem is now every guy who's codependent has to filter everything he says through, how does this make her feel? It's a very reactive way of looking at things. If I say this, will she like me or will she not like me? And so they cater their truth, my truth. That's what that's about. And then ultimately that leads to a difficulty in making decisions. You can't make a decision because what if it's the wrong one? Then she might leave me and abandon me. Oh my God, she might think worse of me. If I take her out to dinner and the place is closed, then she's going to hate me and I've ruined dinner. And now I'm going to be alone and lonely and I'll die in a ditch and a thing by the river. And where's my legacy? God damn it. Like, fuck, relax. It's just dinner. Part of this too, the part about getting rid of your codependence as a guy is just learning how to handle stuff. Like to the point that I go out to dinner. Oh, the restaurant's too booked. I want to go somewhere else or things closed. I'm smart enough I can sort out that problem in situ. Well, I'm going to drive that way and I'm going to look over here. And when I see a restaurant that looks good, we're going to stop there instead. My birthday. Remember this? My girl and I did it. It was a great one. She was planning on taking me out to, and this is like a reverse example, but it still works. She was trying to take me out to this nice, like fancy ass restaurant by the museum in Toronto. I can't remember what the name of it is. Something happened. They screwed up our reservation or the wait, or I don't even remember what it was, or maybe it was closed. Actually, I think it was closed. And it sucked because she's like, oh, this was like a 4-star restaurant. It was the best thing, Michelin star. I'm like, relax. Drove 3 blocks down. I saw this place that did like Southern fried chicken, Korean style. It was like a diner that was like Korean inspired Southern cooking. I'm like, let's go. Had the greatest time ever. Awesome food. Highly recommend it. I wish I could remember the name of it now. Is it called Sidekicks? Yeah. Isn't that a given you take that approach? It's not a given. If it was a given, I wouldn't be getting views by talking about it. The fact that people are like amazed, like, you have to explain this stuff? Yes. Yes, for a lot of guys, you have to explain this stuff. I keep telling you, red pill, most of this stuff, if you're at all functional as a human being, 80%, 50 to 80% of it should be stuff you're like, how do you not know this? Of course. And then there's always that 50 to 20% that you're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. That totally makes me understand this thing. But that's the problem, is that every guy, his 20% is a different 20%. So you got to talk about 100% of it. And so, yeah, honestly, 100% of this stuff, most of it should sound normal. But every now and then you should be hearing like oh, I get it. And that's what you need. Ryan, is the exact opposite of codependency dangerous also? How so? What's the, look, Gen Z, I have these, on my old Red Pill coffee videos, I used to put a don't eat paint warning at the end of all the videos. And this is why. That exactly why. Is that you would bring up some easy one about don't be codependent. And then somebody would be like, well, what about being too non-codependent? What about this? Anytime you bring up any very obvious, helpful mental model, red pill stuff, they always got to be like, well, what if a guy's a complete retard and you do this and he ends up nuking his family? It's the equivalent of like a don't eat paint warning, because paint used to be made with lead back in the 50s, and kids would lick it because they're stupid, and those kids would get brain damage because lead's not good for you. And so what they did is, instead of having parents teach their kids not to eat lead paint, they would put warning labels on it. Do not eat. And then all of a sudden, like, imagine a kid who's stupid enough to eat lead paint, but smart enough to read the label and listen to it. And then we ended up in a society that everything comes with a warning label. I want to turn the lights on in my Wi-Fi lighting setup. They have to give me a warning that they aren't liable for any potential damage than an LED light turning on in my thing. And so when you have this, every time you want to say something useful, you have to consider, well, what happens if somebody's completely ridiculous and does the absolute most extravagant, deranged thing ever? I should account for that. It's like, relax. Good example for you. Do you ever see when guys are talking about working out and then their buddy's like, oh, I don't want to work out. I don't want to get too big. As if fucking muscles fall out of the fucking sky, you know? Oh, I would like to go to school, but I don't want to accidentally get a PhD. It's like, relax, man. What was Arnold's line about that? Dude, I don't want a body like that. Just relax. You won't. Trust me. Yeah. Do you really think the issue now with all these codependent guys is that they're automatically going to be like the giant narcissistic assholes that alienate everybody in their life? No. Have you ever met a codependent guy learn to shed his codependence? It is a slog. They are, for the first year at least, all they're doing is constantly falling back onto their codependent behaviors, fucking that up, coming back being like, dude, I did it again, and then slowly but surely stopping it. And then they get to a point where they kind of feel bad, but everything's going well, and they're like, oh, I guess this is normal. And then they just settle into it. Every guy, no guy goes crazy. Every guy just finds a place where he's happy and just settles into there. And the hardest part is the discomfort that comes between here and there. And that's where all the guys struggle, is because the discomfort is difficult and they've never had to use it before. All right, so that's all I got for you guys on this one. Let's put this on the thing. Let's do a little bit of bant in the chat, because why not? All right. Oh yeah, welcome, morning, like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Stored at ryanstone.com for all of your merch needs. Praxeology, Volume 1 frame. Do I have the ad for that? I really got to make one for it. Is it this one? Hold on a sec.
Charles Bukowski. Jordan Peterson. Neil Strauss. I like these guys. Add some salt to cover up the bitterness of middle-aged soccer moms and put in the oven for 45 minutes. Optionally, you can take from all this stuff what you want and leave the rest. So enjoy Fuck Files. 15 lessons from a decade of women, now on audio.
So I got to update these ads. That's the first book. Praxeology Volume 1 is the second book, and it kind of gets in a lot of the stuff, so it's definitely good. How's Volume 2 coming along? It's coming along pretty well. Actually, I guess I can give you an update to that while we bant along. So some context. For a book, generally speaking, anything under 50,000 words is a novella. For a book, anywhere between 60 and 80,000 is a good range. Anything larger than that, you've either got too expansive a topic, or you're better off putting it into 2 books. Because the problem is, when a book is that large, by the time you get to the end, you've forgotten a lot about the beginning. So I find like 60 to 70,000 is like a good butter zone. So for this one, let me just pull up the project statistics. The first draft is at about, it's at 52 already. So I'm probably going to get it. So what I usually do, and I learned this from Jordan Peterson, pre-Daily Wire Jordan Peterson, is you want to write 20% more and then cull 20% of it from your work, like clean it up and get rid of all the stuff that doesn't matter. So you can be pretty ruthless about how you edit it. So I'll probably get it up to like a good 80,000. So it's 2/3 of the way through the manuscript. Cull that down, rewrite the parts that need to be written. Then once we get at a nice 60 to 70,000, send it off to the editor. Now I'm not working the fastest at it. I'm not intending to get this out hyper fast. Don't worry about it till probably December. I still don't fully grasp what dependence is. It's the fear of abandonment, Sluggo. That's the easiest way to describe it. You're doing things because you want the other person to validate you because you're afraid that they're going to leave you. Ultimately, that's what codependence is. Everything goes from there. Everything starts from there. You lie to women because you want them to love you. One-nightiness is absolutely a form of codependence. Absolutely. You lie to women because you want them to love you. You try to control her because you want her to love you. You yell and scream and you build covert contracts because ultimately you want her to love you and you want her to validate that. You build up these fantasies in your head of you being a real man with a beard and a thing. You're a servant leader. You want her to give you permission to be a man because ultimately you want her to love you and you don't want to be abandoned. That's it. I hate when somebody else other than the author narrates books. Dude, I'm the same. I've narrated all of my books for the same reason. I've had offers. And it would save me a lot of work, and it's not that expensive to hire a narrator, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't know, it's just easier, and it's better, and I just enjoy it more. No, that's not Clary. Clary has an anchor, sir. So what's dude, I almost forgot. Who's doing Rule 0? What are we doing? Look at this. I got to set up a redirect. Is it Troy? Later, honey. It is Troy. Are you a high... Oh, we're doing the high value man thing again? Jesus Christ. Fair enough. So I'm going to redirect this to to Troy's video once we're done here. We're going to finish off. Saving up my favorites. Appreciate it, sir. Anyway, I will let you go. Catch you guys on the next one. Have fun. You know the deal. Get that chummy started. Yeah. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share with your friends, do all that fancy stuff that helps the channel grow. If you'd rather watch me yell at chicks with White Claws on the podcast, you can always do that too. Etc., etc.